Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is the weekly recap show. Got a lot to talk about today.
That's right.
T-Pipe.
Middle Dad, Brett. All right. Well, let's just go ahead and get started here. Okay, we got the Alabama LSU game. Alabama annihilated LSU 55-17. Mac Jones passed for 385 and 4 touchdowns, and it was a rout.
The story of this game was Devonta Smith. I think he had 3 touchdowns, over 200 yards receiving, and he predicted he was going to have a big game. I really believe, and I don't know if it's actually going to happen, but I think Devonta Smith, with all the talk on Twitter last night from all the sports media guys, all the college football media guys, everybody was saying it. Devonta Smith is the best player in college football. The fact that he's not in the Heisman conversation, it's just all the QBs, is criminal.
He has played out of his mind.
He's awesome, and we've watched him for years. I watched a little bit of this game last night, and yeah, he's swung my mind. I was going all Mac Jones, then Kyle Trask. Devonta Smith has overtaken both of them, in my opinion. He's got to be the Heisman frontrunner. But he probably won't even get invited to New York. It'll be a QB show.
Yeah, it was 10-15 years ago, you would get the occasional running back. You had Mark Ingram, you had
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry get the Heisman. But it just seems like they need to start getting more of these players included in the mix.
It used to be 5, I think, and now they've gotten down to only 3 guys get to go. I think it used to be 5 guys.
Well, it was 3, then they made it 5. Maybe they're just downsizing this year because it's a COVID year. But that's that game. Notre Dame looked good against Syracuse. I watched some of this game at Taco Mac in Roswell. Ian Book, 24 for 37, 285 yards, 3 touchdowns. Just another good showing by Notre Dame. Granted, Syracuse has won 1 game this season. But
I didn't watch any of this game, but the game I was watching, they kept breaking in to show a highlight of Ian Book throwing a touchdown or running it in or something happening for Notre Dame. So a rout, kind of what we expected. Give Syracuse credit; they played pretty hard in the first quarter. But yeah, Ian Book rushing attack with Notre Dame. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely worthy of that 2nd ranking. Right now, as much as I hate to admit I was wrong.
They've had a great season. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they beat Clemson, and they stand to make the playoffs, regardless whether they win or lose in that ACC title game. Speaking of Clemson defeated Virginia Tech 45-10. Trevor Lawrence, ho-hum, 12 of 22, 195 yards and touchdown. They're quickly running out of games. Yeah,
that could be the swan song for Fuente over there at Virginia Tech. This game actually, in my opinion, I watched a little bit of it, a little closer than the final score. Yeah. Clemson obviously ran away with it, but Virginia Tech kind of was hanging in for a little bit. Kind of very reminiscent of yesterday's Florida-Tennessee game. It was not much a question in doubt, but the team kept hanging around a little bit. I was like, hey, I'm kind of surprised. They're not completely running away with it, but the score, in my opinion, doesn't really dictate as good of a game as it was.
Right.
And the same thing goes for this next one. Yeah. Ohio State and Michigan State. Michigan State, despite getting the shit kicked out of them, hung with them. Ohio State was missing 3 offensive linemen.
Right. And
it didn't look like it. One of the touchdowns, though, Justin Fields, so he went 17 for 24 for 190 yards, 99 yards, and 2 scores. One of those scores, that guy flat out dropped the football. And it landed on the ground. Yeah. They called it a touchdown anyway. They called it a touchdown in the field. They reviewed it. I don't see how it's a touchdown. Whatever. 14 points in the first quarter, 14 points in the second quarter, 10 in the third, 14 in the fourth. Michigan State played, the score doesn't show it. I watched this entire game with Chris Hansford in April. Michigan State played them tough. There was some spots in the game where they had some momentum, and then there'd be a costly penalty or a turnover. They played them tough. I got to give Michigan State credit. Fields didn't look good, except running the ball. He had a couple of really nice long runs. They just out-athleted them.
I mean, Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, you get, it's the 3 strikes and you're out. You make 3 mistakes in critical situations, you're going to lose every time.
That's a great point, because they're holding them, and then they bring in Trey Sermon, and he busts like a 25-yard run because one guy misses a tackle. It's 3rd and 6. That guy makes the tackle, they're getting off the field, and then, don't make the tackle. But I was impressed with Michigan State. They played pretty well.
Awesome.
I will. One more thing I want to add. They committed a personal foul, and Mel Tucker's on the sideline yelling at his player. The ref threw a personal foul flag on Tucker because he thought Tucker was yelling at him. Again, that's kind of a BS call, but that's what happens when you're a huge underdog going against Ohio State.
That's right. That's right. And so again, Ohio State's undefeated, 5-0. This is getting late in the season.
Yep.
Texas A&M defeats Auburn. They're 7-1. They are poised, if one of these top 4 teams make a mistake in the next few weeks, to get in the discussion of playoff spot. Again, 31-20. Kellen Mond, 18 for 23, 126, and 2 scores. Anything else you want to add about this game?
I watched a little bit of this game. I said last week that A&M didn't beat LSU by enough. They won 20-7 in a real bad rainstorm, and at the end of the game, it was in hand. LSU wasn't going to win. Jimbo Fisher said, just run the football, kill clock, get out. We discussed last Sunday, survive and advance mentality. That's what they did yesterday. However, I believe this is the last game. No, they got a makeup game. In Auburn, I think was ranked. They might have been ranked coming in. They didn't beat Auburn by enough, in my opinion.
No.
They were down. They were down 20-14, and they had to do a 17-point fourth quarter comeback to win. Somebody on Twitter said, but they dominated the lines of scrimmage. I don't care. You got to win by more than 11. You're number 5. You need something to happen because Ohio State's getting in. This is going to be a controversy. They're going to get in. This complete bullshit. They're probably going to get in. You need to blow them out by 20, 25 points. They didn't do it. They've got another game or two to be made up. They need style points.
I would agree with that.
And they're not doing it right now.
Because they're not going to want to bump. If something happens, Notre Dame loses, they're not bumping Notre Dame.
They're not. They've got to start winning by 20-25 to get that nod.
Exactly. And here's another one of the teams that are in discussion, Florida. They're 8-1 on this late season. 31-19 over Tennessee. Kyle Trask, 433 yards and 4 touchdowns. Just another ho-hum. Look at me on Kyle Trask is getting it done.
He's got better stats than Joe Burrow did last year. I don't care. Don't give him the Heisman. Give it to Devonta Smith. Flat out, Devonta Smith's the best player in college football right now. But Tennessee, again, the score it got out of hand. Tennessee kept it close, but then it got kind of out of hand, and then Tennessee scored. The main takeaway I have in this game, Kyle Trask is throwing to wide open receivers. I don't agree that Dan Mullen's a QB guru. Kyle Trask is a good quarterback. I'm sure Dan Mullen's coached him up. Dan Mullen is doing a better job, in my opinion, calling the plays and drawing up the plays and coaching Kyle Trask. Those dudes were running wide open for 15, 20-yard gains, but the defense is suspect. And I think they're going to get rolled by Alabama.
We'll
But
find that out in a few weeks.
Florida's a damn good football team. My concern is this a flash in the pan? Because you're losing Kyle Trask, you're losing Pitts, you're going to lose Grimes, you're going to lose, I think you're going to lose Copeland, you're going to lose Tony. You're going to lose some guys in the defense. Defense isn't that great. I mean, they're not bad, really. I shouldn't say they're bad, but, another win by Florida, good for them. They're number 6. They need more than one team to slip up, and they got to beat Alabama. I don't think it's going to happen.
So probably going to the Peach Bowl or Sugar Bowl or whatever.
They'll put if they lose the SEC championship game, they'll put them in the sugar.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move right along. Iowa State defeats West Virginia 42-6. They're the top team in the Big 12 right now. They're looking pretty good right now for Fiesta Bowl or Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, the winner of the Big 12, because they're not going to the playoff, will then go to the sugar to play probably Florida. I don't think it's going to be Iowa State.
Okay.
I want it to be because I like Iowa State.
Okay.
I watched Oklahoma play Baylor last night, and Oklahoma and Iowa State are going to play for the conference championship. Iowa State already beat them earlier this year. I don't care. Oklahoma looked unstoppable yesterday. I'm going Oklahoma's winning that game. Big Ten champion Oklahoma is going to go play Florida in the Sugar Bowl. And then who knows who's going to win that game, because I don't think anyone's going to play defense. It's going to be 65-68, and it's going to come down to who's got the football last.
All right. Miami defeats Duke 48-0. Miami's 10th in the country. Miami's doing pretty good. One loss on this season. So
Miami's back. I didn't watch any of this game. I just saw that they were rolling on the bottom of the ticker.
Manny Diaz. Again, Oklahoma, you just mentioned earlier, 27-14 over Baylor. They're 7-2. They managed to salvage this season, and they're in the
They did, and that score really, in my opinion, wasn't. It's one of those where it wasn't as close as the score projects. They put in their backups. Baylor scored a couple of late scores. First half of the game was no contest. Baylor couldn't do anything, and they definitely couldn't stop Oklahoma.
Right. Indiana, Wisconsin, 12th ranked Indiana, 16th ranked Wisconsin. Indiana is 6-1. They're 12th in the country right now. Wisconsin is 16th. They probably have to play a game again, and they got beat by Indiana. Wisconsin's got to be one of the most disappointing teams in the country.
Yeah, no more of the Wisconsin for years always had an elite running back and an elite running game. They've got a bunch of mediocre at best running backs on the team, and it's kind of showing. They don't have that rushing attack. Mertz needs that rushing attack to kind of get going in the passing game. He's a great passer, but he's a first-year player. Indiana won. The best part of this game was the very end when the sideline reporters was interviewing the coach, and all the players kept coming and jumping on the coach. Best coach in college football right here. So we love you, coach. And it was great to see they have completely bought into that system.
That's awesome. That's great. BYU, the team that we were both high on, they lost to Coastal Carolina.
Boo!
Again, the 22-17. BYU, anytime, any place, and of course they lost.
I gotta give hats off to both the teams, especially BYU. They made this game happen. I want to say they made it happen on Thursday.
Right.
And a really good article, I forgot the writer, it was I think on Yahoo Sports, about the BYU equipment truck making it all the way 2,200 miles in 36 hours, and the guy said, we did it legally. So really cool game to see. I was extremely surprised by this outcome. I did not think Coastal Carolina, but again, something I thought about watching it, Coastal Carolina's defense was just manhandling BYU up front. BYU could not stop them running. They were getting manhandled up front defensively as well. And one thing I thought about, a lot of people around the country say, the SEC bias, they're not as good as everyone thought about to be. And I kind of agree with that, but I think it's more the South. The Coastal Carolina's got a bunch of kids from the South that were 3 stars and nobody really wanted them, and they just beat the best thing the West Coast teams had to offer in BYU. But I'll say it right now, the extracurricular activities at the end of the half on Zach Wilson were bullshit. Basically assault almost, and they say, "Oh, it was an interception." I don't care. Some of those plays were after the whistle. Doesn't change my mind. Zach Wilson is still one of the best quarterbacks in the game. One of the top, probably the top 5 in the top 5 players in the country. He's still awesome. Some of the throws he made in a losing effort were ridiculous throws. The last play of the game was a ridiculous throw. Should have been a score. You can't catch that ball and kind of stop moving your feet. You got to get in the end zone, put the ball out, whatever. Yeah. Great game, but hats off to them for making it happen.
Coastal Carolina, BYU. Oklahoma State gets knocked off by TCU. I don't really have anything to say about that, 29-22.
Oklahoma State, huge disappointment.
The mullet, he's been around for 20 years, it seems like. And
he just can't get over the hump. He's been, one time he's gotten over the hump, in my opinion. They went to the Sugar Bowl and played a Hugh Freeze-led Ole Miss team with that kid Jim Kelly's nephew on the team, and Ole Miss beat the crap out of him. Every year they disappoint. Every single year. They should have won this game. They would have been 7-2. Instead, they lose. They're out of the race completely.
North Carolina, 49-9. North Carolina, 17th in the country. They've played well. It was one of the teams that you were really high on earlier in the season, but they're 7-3, and it's pretty much their season's about done.
Yeah, they're a fun game to watch when they're playing a team they can completely out-athlete. Kind of disappointing UNC this year, but it is what it is.
Moving right along. Oregon gets knocked off by California.
You hate to see it.
Yeah.
Hate to see Oregon losing again. Damn. Pac-12's out. See you later.
Yeah.
Thanks for participating.
Thanks for playing. Northwestern canceled their game with the Minnesota. I'm trying to see. That's pretty much the slate of this
Northwestern. The real gritty team. They're so gritty on defense. Yeah. They're freaks in the weight room.
Yeah, of course they are. Is there anything else you want to add this week?
Got a game going on right now.
Yeah, we got USC.
Washington State, USC.
Yes. Actually, it starts here in a
couple minutes. So I saved a tweet from yesterday that I want to read. They were talking about the playoffs, and they're basically saying, 3 of the 4 teams were penciled in before the season even started, and one of them is basically on the fence for getting in because they might not play a lot of 6 games. So it has basically come out that the Barry Alvarez, longtime Wisconsin coach, now he's a Wisconsin AD, I believe.
Right.
He's basically saying, it can't be the fault of the Big Ten. It can't be our incompetence that keeps Ohio State from the playoff. So they're basically going to make it. You watch. Whether or not they play this weekend, Ohio State's going to be able to play that conference championship game. So basically, a team that got penciled in is going to make it. I thought that would have been better if they didn't make it. The maximum amount of games they're going to play is now 6 games, right? 6 games. So they missed 2. 8 is at 6. So 7 games total if they get this Michigan game in. 7 games. So they're going to basically penalize some that play 10 or 11.
Right.
So I want to read this. Let me find the damn thing here. So Stuart Mandel basically wrote this. He said the commissioners knew as soon as they went to a playoff, it would dominate every other aspect of the sport, and they've accepted that. I don't have a problem with that. It is what it is. That's what they're playing for, is a national championship.
Right.
They made a playoff. Playoff's a talking point. I get it. So what they couldn't anticipate was that the same 3 to 4 teams would dominate the college football playoff every year, and that's not healthy for the sport. And I do not like Stuart Mandel at all, but that's the first thing I think I've ever agreed with him. I've said this for the last 3 or 4 years. It's hurting the sport when the same 4 teams are in. So that's why I get happy when Oklahoma loses, or Clemson loses, or Ohio State gets beat by Iowa or Purdue. If it keeps them out, and even one team that you would never expect goes in, like a Michigan State a couple years back, then you had Georgia, you had Notre Dame one year. Only one team that's different is getting it.
LSU got in there.
LSU, I mean, they deserved it, but yeah, they were different. That was their first time, I believe. Washington's been in, but I think since its inception, Ohio State has been in 3 times. They won the first one. They've lost twice in the semis. But I think other than that, Alabama has been in every single one except for last year. Clemson has been in 4 of the last 5, and won 2 national championships. They won 2. They've lost 2. I'm not going to say something needs to be done because I don't think. I would love a playoff expansion, obviously, but I don't think. I don't want that to happen. Just because we're looking at the same 4 teams every year getting in. Basically Oklahoma, Clemson, Ohio State, and Alabama. But I think what I really want to see happen is them keep Ohio State out and put somebody else in, like an A&M. Or throw in, maybe throw in Iowa State if they beat Oklahoma. Because their strength of schedule would be higher than Oklahoma. Maybe throw in Coastal Carolina or Cincinnati.
Give somebody else an opportunity.
Yeah, and it's not just about the opportunity. We kind of know they're probably going to get rolled, but it's better that way. It's more fun. It's better for the game because it's the illusion, somewhat of an illusion that anybody can make it.
Well, the only way to do this properly would be expand it to an 8-team playoff or 12-team playoff, and give more opportunity to a lot of teams. There's been years where a 10-2 team got hot in the last 6 games of the season and was one of the best teams in the country. I mean, I know Georgia back in 07 was deserving of an opportunity.
Auburn, was 2004, was a hell of a team.
Yes.
But the detractors always say, well, look what happens when the number 2 Clemson team plays the number 10 Miami. They blow the doors off them. I said, yeah, that's probably going to happen a lot more often than not. However, maybe once every 3 to 4 years, that 10 seed knocks, or whatever, the 8 seed knocks off the 1. Well, the 7-2, 6-3.
It's like the NCAA tournament. Every now and again, a low-tier team, a bottom seed will knock off a 2 or a 3. Nobody ever saw coming. Cinderella. There needs to be an element of that. It's college football.
Yep. Perfect example was the Coastal Carolina yesterday. Yeah. Nobody really gave him a chance. No. They thought Zach Wilson was going to run all over them, throw all over them, and they bowed up and played like hell. you'd never know whether the number 6 team is going to come in and play the number 3 team,
Right.
and from the 3 team has a couple turnovers, and the number 6 team just cannot be denied. It's going to happen.
What year was it when Boise State played Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl? Nobody gave them a chance. And they won them.
I don't remember the year. That was a hell of a game.
Yeah.
I watched that whole damn game.
We were down in we were at Tampa for the Georgia game, weren't we? We were at a bowl game that day.
Yeah, I think it was Orlando, the Capital One Bowls. That might have been 2008.
Okay.
I don't really remember the year, but I remember the game. I'm not advocating expanding the playoffs just because it's more fun in the same 4 teams. I'm not saying that. I don't want people to misconstrue. I'm just saying that would give other teams a chance.
Right.
You never know what can happen. Regular season, we've seen teams lose. You never know what can happen. But it does say something about it that it's the whole time it's basically been the same 4 teams, and that is a little bad for the game.
Yeah.
And he went on to tweet after that about how you kind of forget about a game like BYU, Coastal Carolina. You might forget about some of these other great games because these teams all have one loss and are not going to make the playoff anyway.
Well, it's also, you got to consider, USC's been down the past 15 years. Michigan's been down. Penn State's been down. Nebraska's been down. Miami's been down. All these top programs have not been putting a good product on the field as of late. So until these other teams get in the game, get in action, because they got the money, have the donors, they got to put a quality product on the field. The minute they do that, they're going to start knocking off these Bamas, these Clemsons, the Notre Dames of the world. Notre Dame they're in the discussion every year, but they haven't been there up until the past 4 or 5 years since Chip Kelly's been there.
There are plenty of recruits to go around. We saw earlier this year Georgia played Alabama, and on paper the ranking metrics, Georgia had a slight edge in the recruiting ranking metrics as far as that they deemed it was the more talented roster due to the number of 5 stars and 4 stars, and Alabama rolled them. There are some guys in Alabama's team that aren't 5 stars, but they're playing like they are. And that's coaching. They get coached up. I don't care what people say. They're they're doing something behind the scenes. Everyone has basically the same, a fairly equal strength and conditioning program. These guys are all around the same size. There's a reason why the Ohio States of the world and the Clemsons and the Alabamas, they're competing with each other. And you have the Georgias, the LSUs, the Floridas, the Oklahomas, the Texases. They're competing. They've got the same, similar athletes. Some of these games come, they're close games. They come down to, okay, who's going to turn the ball over the most? If you play a team like Alabama or Ohio State or Clemson and you turn the ball over 3 times in one half, they're probably going to turn that into at minimum 14 points.
Right.
And then you're going to get blown out.
Well,
So there's plenty of talent to go around.
Right.
You got to coach them up, and you've got to avoid the costly turnovers.
And you can't miss on recruiting your running backs and your quarterback. You got to be on.
Yeah.
You can't miss. Georgia has not necessarily missed recently. They've just been in an odd situation.
Yeah, it's a little squirrely there with the Newman opting out and Daniels not being quite ready to play. Some people say, well, they're in this position because Jake Fromm left. Had he not left, they probably wouldn't have brought in Newman or Daniels. I'm like, okay, that's a valid point. He leaves and you just start with the freshman kid coming in, that 5-star Vandegrift. But yeah, you got to have a QB. But there are times in the season when all of these top teams they'll face a tough competition and get knocked off. All of them with the exception of Ohio State. They don't play anybody, and I've said it 1,000 times. I said it with the Ohio State fan, Chris, yesterday. Went to his house to watch the game. Nothing against Ohio State. That is a detriment to the rest of the conference, not Ohio State. But Clemson played Notre Dame. Notre Dame beat them. Clemson's going to play Miami. Alabama's got to play Georgia. Alabama's got to play LSU. Alabama's got to play Auburn. Florida's now got to play. Florida lost to A&M. Florida's now going to play Alabama. There are opportunities for teams to win to knock off the, what are we going to call them? Just like the usual suspects, the top 4. It's just going to happen.
Right.
And I'm kind of hoping it does because it's more fun for the casual fan that way who doesn't root for any of those 4 teams to see something different in it. But like I said, Stewart made the tweet. I don't like him. I think he's an idiot. But that was a pretty damn good point, I thought, because Ohio State, Iowa State hasn't won a conference championship since World War I. be kind of cool if they did and got in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be cool to see them, something new.
Yeah.
So that's where I stand on that. I like a little bit of diversity. I like parity, much like a lot of the NFL, Major League Baseball, NHL, not NBA, but the others. There's parity.
Yeah.
You don't see the exact same team winning every single time.
It's always going to be the haves and have-nots. Well, this is going to conclude the this week's episode of our college football weekly report and review of past week's games. Stay tuned for.
We'll have a what to watch for next week. I think next week is mainly just the makeup games. We will see Georgia's game against Vanderbilt. We talked last week about the female kicker. Apparently, a bunch of players got pissed off and they opted out. Wasn't really much of a COVID issue, as we have too many guys that aren't going to be able to play. So then you have 1 or 2 COVIDs, put you below. They didn't play this weekend. So we'll kind of talk about that on the what to watch. What games are going to get made up, and what schools are saying, screw it, we're out 2020. We're not doing it anymore.
That's right.
You know, so we'll talk about that on the what to watch episode. So stay tuned.
All right, you guys have a good day.
I appreciate it.
That's going to be a long one.
It's probably a big one.
Hold on.